On this walk-off edition of Locked On Angels, last night's game had everything, didn't it? It had a missed strike 3 call, ball 4 call, whatever call it was against Taylor Ward. There was the home run that Shohei hit, and then there were 2 bunts by the Angels, and then they walked it off with a Joe Adell single. We've got all of the details and the recap right here on Locked On Angels. I'm Mike, that's John, we're the Super Halo Bros, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe button on YouTube. And while you're here, leave a comment. One of the best ways to get in touch with John and I and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And we would love for you to come bowling with us at the second annual Logan Ohtani All-Star Bowl, Sunday night, September 7th from 5 to 8:30. We're going to raise money for the YMCA of Orange County. You can be a part of the event by clicking the link in the episode description. And when you check out, use the promo code Halo Bros. Come bowling with us and our best buddy, Logan Ohtani.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
What a game last night as the Angels take the series 7-6 over the Dodgers. Before we get to all that, we're going to be talking about a new role for Chase Silseth later on in the show, and Bryce Teodosio in the outfield. Mike, let's give everybody our takeaways from last night's game. The Angels win this one in extras, 7-6.
Yeah, I'm going to go right to the end. Let's go to the 9th inning, John. And Kenley Jansen comes in, and Shohei Ohtani's at the plate. And Shohei Ohtani does Shohei Ohtani things. He hits a massive home run to right field off of Kenley Jansen, broke a 5-5 tie, was the first earned run that Kenley Jansen has given up since June 15th. Yeah. You knew it was going to happen, right? You knew he was going to give up an earned run, and you knew he was going to do it to Shohei, right? Yeah. You knew Shohei was going to come through in that moment, right?
Well, you knew that Shohei was going to come out swinging because he got into that triple play, which was awesome. And of course, we'll talk about that. But he's like, I'm not going to let that be the last image from this game. And so that's what he did. He made it 6-5 off of Kenley Jansen, which again, his first earned run since June 15th. Guy's been electric, right? He's been nails. It just felt like, all right, the momentum's in their favor. We get it. And in this situation, the Angels were able to come back, Mike. So that's all what really matters here.
Were you deflated? Did you think like, oh man, that's it, game over, home run, or did you have some hope for the next inning?
I've had hope for the next inning kind of throughout the season. And I said on Twitter, I said, guys, don't try to get it all back.
Yeah.
In one swing.
Yeah.
Somebody on their phone in the dugout must have read that because Rengifo got that base hit.
Yep.
Ohtani walked in a really good at bat. Bryce Teodosio bunts the runners over to second and third. And the ball stayed fair, Mike. Yeah. That was incredible.
Yeah.
See, that was later on. I'm all verklempt.
That pitch by Teodosio, bunting that pitch was high.
Yeah.
In the zone.
Not an easy bunt. No.
And he got that bunt down. Ron Washington would be very pleased. He got you got to get that bunt down is what Ron Washington would say.
Right.
And then it was inevitable. Zach Neto comes up. He's intentionally walked because that guy has been so good in those moments. And then Nolan Schanuel, this is why I love him. He makes contact, right? And he hits a sac fly to center field, scores the tying run. Mike Trout has a really good at bat. He walks, loads the bases. Then there's a pitching change, and Taylor Ward comes in, and he goes up 3 balls and no strikes, John.
Yeah.
And ball 4 was called a strike.
Yeah.
And I know that it was a bad call, and here's how I know. Because Ben Verlander on Twitter said it was, right? The guy who loves Shohei and the Dodgers and all the victories and all those. Ben Verlander was like, should have been a walk-off, should have been over. That was a good take. And the ump gave it to the pitcher. And then, of course, Taylor Ward fouls off the next pitch, and then he swings and misses and eventually struck out.
You know, we talked about the umpiring in 2 nights ago. We talked about the umpiring in 2 nights ago's game. And look, the fact that was it Vesia at the time who did it? I just think he wasn't even close to the zone.
Yeah.
Against Taylor Ward.
Yeah.
And
it
so
actually was
Kasparius. Yeah.
Kasparius
Ben
came
Kasparius.
in. Couldn't hit anybody.
Yeah.
He couldn't hit the zone at all. Walked 3 guys, and then Kasparius came in and was wild as soon as he came in.
Yeah, he's wild, and then he gets the benefit of the douse in that situation. Like, give me a break. Come on.
Now, I don't want to skip over this. Top of the 10th, Connor Brogdon comes in, shuts the Dodgers down 1-2-3. They don't win this game without Connor Brogdon coming in and just being that bulldog that the Angels want. Then bottom 10, Ward's at second base. Now, Johnny, you can talk about that bunt that just sat on the chalk line from Christian Moore.
Yeah, Christian Moore hits a bunt and the ball stays fair. It just dies in the dirt, Mike. It doesn't go foul. Will Smith didn't pick it up. And, it was almost like, pick it up, dude. You could have easily got the out. But Joe Adell walks it off with a single that bounces over shortstop into left field. That's what wins the game. I got to shout out Locked On Everydayer, closer K-Rock, at K-Rock Free on Twitter. He's always supported me in my Joe Adell stock. He said Joe Adell stocks have increased, and it's always a gif of somebody like doing snow angels and money. So shout out to closer K-Rock there, because he's got my back in this one. Second takeaway, Mike, Victor Maderos made his first major league start. Some backstory here. He threw 52 pitches in 4 innings last Friday. Ray Montgomery said that was a shortened start, and so he would have a normal start despite just 3 days rest. He got to 72 pitches in 4 innings. We'll talk about that in a minute, but first, this is a different Victor Maderos. He reworked his delivery and arm action, dropped his arm slot 10 degrees over the last year, added a true sweeper to the arsenal. So, how did he do? Well, he was a little bit shaky to start the game. He walked Ohtani, he hit Mookie Betts, he got Freeman to fly out, gave up an RBI single to Teoscar, and then Max Muncy lined into a double play. Schanuel caught it, drove it back to first to double up the runner, which was nice. Second inning, he got the first 2 batters really easily, but then he allows a 2-out walk to Alex Freeland, not a great hitter, the number 8 hitter, and then a 2-run home run to Dalton Rushing. So that tied the game at 3-3 after the Angels put it on Emmett Sheehan. It was an 0-2 pitch that he hit out, and Maderos had 43 pitches across 2 innings, gave up 3 runs on 2 hits, 3 walks, and a hit by pitch. He finally got his first 1-2-3 inning in the third, threw 16 pitches to get through that. In the fourth, he threw 13 pitches, gave up a single, induced a double play, and a ground out. So total of 4 innings, 3 runs on 3 hits, 3 walks, 3 Ks. Where do we go from here with Victor Maderos? Is he somebody who's going to stay in the rotation? Because I always thought he needs a chance to start at the big leagues because they brought him up to pitch out of the bullpen. He's never been very good out of the bullpen. You go look at his starts in the minor leagues. I know that they said he's improved a lot this year, but the fact is, He's not been a great starter, but he's definitely been better than any bullpen appearances that he's had. Where do we go from here, Mike?
Let him start again. Give him one more.
Yeah.
Like I think it should just be hey, earn your next start.
Yeah.
With Victor Maderos. I mean, this is better than Jack Kahanowitz. Kahanowitz gets roughed up every time he's out there, and Maderos is pitching against the Dodgers. And I know he had 3 walks, but those 3 walks were because he was a bit nervous in that first inning, and it was a little bit wild. He settled down by the 3rd inning, and he just came off of throwing 52 pitches in 4 innings in his previous start. So I think you got to give him another start just to see what he can do. I think he would be a great fit for this starting rotation, and why not? This team isn't going anywhere, and so let him have an opportunity to pitch at the major league level as a starter, not a reliever, because that's who he is. He's a starter, and I'd love to see what he can do. So let him earn his next start. That's how I would focus on this right now. Yeah.
A great back and forth game. That's our third takeaway. Fact is, this was an all-timer.
It was so good.
Of a baseball game.
Fun game to watch.
And just the fact that they won is the cherry on top, but man, just this back and forth action throughout the game. The Angels were able to, again, get 3 in the bottom of the first after the Dodgers scored 1. And then, of course, Maderos gave up that 2-run home run. But how about the fact that Taylor Ward hit his 28th home run of the season, his 89th RBI of the year, and he's got a 105th home run, and his 105th home run, that ties him for 19th all-time in Angels history with Torrey Hunter. Then the bottom of the 4th, Rengifo had a nice walk. Bryce Teodosio hits an RBI double to score Rengifo. And then the Dodgers answered back in the top of the fifth with 2 runs of their own. Andrew Chafin got the first 2 hitters, but then the next 5 hitters reached on 3 hits and 2 walks. So Ryan Zefferjon came in, walked in a run, and I also tweeted, hey, only 1 fastball in that sequence?
Yeah.
And then the next batter, he gets him to swing and miss at the top of the zone with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. And I said, who'd have thought? And I said, us. It's us.
Yeah.
Us thought.
It was literally sweeper,
cutter,
1 fastball, cutter, sweeper. I mean, it was not a good sequence of pitches. And finally, he did end up striking out Michael Conforto. John, first through 5 innings for the Dodgers, 5 runs, 6 hits. First through 5 innings for the Angels, 5 runs on 5 hits. Then from the 6th inning to the 8th inning, both teams went quiet. And then, of course, 9th inning, they both score. 10th inning, the Angels come back and win it. So just a very much back and forth game last night. And then our final takeaway, John, the Angels turned a triple play, and that was so beautiful. I loved watching that. Top 6, Brock Burke is pitching, Miguel Rojas and Dalton Rushing reach base with singles, and then you can feel like, oh man, this is not going to go well. This inning's falling apart really fast. Brings up Shohei Ohtani. He hits a line drive up the middle. Neto's playing him perfectly, makes the catch, tags second, and with just all sorts of peace and calm, throws it to first, and then Schanuel tags Dalton Rushing, who then falls and hurts himself. He ended up staying in the game. But a triple play, John, in this game. Beautiful play. Last triple play was in 2023 against the Tampa Bay Rays. This was such a smart play by Zach Neto. He made it happen. This guy, man, I'm a huge fan. Somebody said, I think it was on Twitter, he's like a reincarnated Dustin Pedroia. He is really just a fire starter out there, offensively and defensively. And of course, it does make it a little bit more sweeter that it was against Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, and you know, MLB did everything they could to say, don't look, it's not Ohtani. It was his agent. It was his interpreter. He's the one who hit into the triple play, not Ohtani. He didn't do it. Mike, is this a turnaround game? I mean, do we make anything out of this? Is this where, you know, in the documentary they say, and then the Angels on August 12th decided to go on a winning stretch and sneak into the postseason? Is this where that happens, or do we just take it day by day?
It feels a little late, and I think it's day by day. And I mean, if they go on a run, that's fantastic. However, they're gonna have to go on a really, really good run. Problem is that we've seen this before. We've seen this script before. We've seen this play out. Really good against good teams, and then the next series, not a good team, and they just lay an egg. So one game at a time until the end of the year. If they can get to 500, I think that needs to be the focus. Get to 500, because if you do, what a great improvement year over year for this team.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, the Angels changed the role of Chase Silseth. Was it a good move? We're going to talk about that coming right up.
August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day. FanDuel Futures Day is a day that you should mark on your calendar. It's a brand new holiday that FanDuel created for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So maybe you're going to call the MVP, or maybe you got a long shot division winner, or maybe you're like, nope, they're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm going to mark it down week 1. This is your moment. FanDuel's going to help you and hook you up. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bets now, because Future Day is one day and one day only, August 26th. FanDuel, play your game.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Mike, Chase Silseth picked up his first career save last Thursday night in AAA. And he hasn't allowed a run in 5 innings since he's changed his role. He missed most of the season because of an injury and what the Angels called fatigue. They're so nondescript with their injuries. Here's what Ray Montgomery had to say. He said, he's one of the guys we're going to have to count on at some point. I'm glad he's back healthy. I'm glad he's having success. Now, remember, Silseth was part of the rotation in 2023. They wanted him to be part of it in 2024. He got hurt and then never made a comeback to the majors last year. We've also seen him pitch out of the bullpen in 2022, but then he got that full-time role in 2023. Looked good, and was certainly somebody that we thought would play a role in last year's rotation before he got hurt. One of the things that has always been an issue with him is getting deep into ball games and seeing the velocity on his fastball tick down, tick down, tick down as the game goes on. And now, remember, he's on the 40-man roster. So if the Angels need to turn to anybody for an extra arm, he's going to be one of those options that they can bring up and send down. You can never have too many relievers because, as we all know, relievers are the most volatile players in all of baseball, and he's been hurt. Plus, when he pitched in the bigs, he was good for the first time and the second time through, and then that third time through the order always got the best of him. So, Mike, is this move for Chase, is this the most effective way for him to stick around on a major league roster? What do you say?
I think so. I think this is kind of the last option. Middle relief, maybe, but I think Chase has the stuff to be a late innings guy. He can kind of be a Ryan Zephyr-John-esque type of pitcher because Zephyr-John has really good stuff. Now, he needs to use his really good stuff and not use his mediocre stuff, especially when it counts. And I think that's the same for Chase Silseth. Although I don't think Chase is unaware of that. When he's been around, he's thrown really good pitches and he's got really great velocity, and his off-speed stuff has been pretty good. The issue has been, and you mentioned it, the velocity after inning 4, maybe even inning 3, it starts to tick down and he loses the bite on his fastball and the sharpness of his off-speed stuff. So if he's going 1 inning and he's throwing really hard, I think that actually fits his pitching repertoire. I think that fits his makeup. And he's been injured. It almost feels like a Sam Bachman move, right? Yeah. This is inevitable. Got to move him here. But John, if Chase can figure it out, I think that he's got the fire and the passion and the grittiness that this team needs and could be someone that slots in to the back end of the bullpen. I mean, imagine this for next year, right? Let's say Kenley comes back, which I think would be a smart move for Kenley and also for the Halos, because then you've got Ben Joyce coming off an injury. Not sure what he's going to be able to do or when he'll actually be able to pitch. You've got Ryan Zephyr-John, who is still kind of in that I'm figuring things out. Another year under his belt, I think, really helps him. And then you've got Robert Stevenson, who is pitching in the, he's on the IL right now. And
coming off an injury,
doing rehab and all of those things, right? And I think what you need is you need to slot in another arm there that is cheap and affordable, but could potentially be really good for you. And here's why I think he could be really good. Because I think Chase wants to prove himself. I think that what you do, same thing with Maderos. Hey, pitch today for your next outing, right? Earn it. And I think the same can be true for Chase Silseth. Hey, pitch for the next outing. I've always really liked him because he reminds me of like a Zach Neto on the mound. He's fiery and
we've always said,
right?
We've always said like John Lackey too, just because
he's got a little
bulldog
bit of that
mentality. Yeah.
And so I think what he could bring is a stronger, more confident bullpen. I think that he could bring in, a cheap version of a, maybe not a Kenley Jansen, but maybe like another Ben Joyce, but not throwing as hard. I think he could be a guy that could get you to the back end of the bullpen, maybe even be an 8th inning, 9th inning guy. We always compare people to Scott Shields. Maybe he's got some of that in him. I think this is the best role for him to play right now. In fact, I would let him finish out AAA, playing the role of the closer, and then spring training, bringing him in and potentially having him be a part of the bullpen in 2026.
Yeah, it's interesting because the first time he was part of this bullpen, it was the move that apparently everybody hates, and it was a starter in the bullpen pitching at the major league level. They did that with Chase, and they did that with Sam Bachman. Obviously, both have been hurt since then. And so in my estimation, I wonder what's going to be different the next time he's in the bullpen. And I think the kicker here is that it's coming at the end of the bullpen where he's closing out games, where he's in save situations in AAA. And so that'll be interesting to see how the remainder of his season plays out. The other thing I want to bring up, Mike, is if you add another young arm to this bullpen, are we kind of back to where we were before they traded for Luis Garcia, before they traded for Andrew Chafin, where it's not a lot of veteran guys with experience who don't let the moment get too big for them? I wonder if with Chase Silseth, that might be an issue again. However, we've seen it work with Detmers. We've seen it work with I meant to say, yeah, we've seen it work with Detmers. I wonder if it'll work with Chase Silseth. Detmers, by the way, remember what we talked about the other day where he said, yeah, I blew it. I got to turn the page. I think that's exactly what we saw from him in last night's game against the Dodgers too. But I say all this because I just wonder how things will be different from the first time Chase was in the bullpen and the second time. And also, are we going backwards in terms of veteran experience? What do you think?
Here's what will be different. Keep him in AAA, let him finish out the year, and let him play the same role until the end of the year. Yeah. That is what will be different. They've moved him around so many times. Is he bullpen? Is he a starter? We're having to start. He didn't do really well. Oh, we need somebody to fill in, right? Like, give him a role, let him focus on that role, and what I think it will be is beneficial to him. Now, the whole conversation about veterans, here's where I would say it leaves open for the Angels to be strategic. Robert Stevenson comes back. He's a veteran. You sign Kenley Jansen. He's a veteran. So you have two really good guys that could be 8 and 9. I get Stevenson has the injury. You still have to kind of see what happens there. But you have those two guys at 8 and 9 and can be the back end of the bullpen. I also think that they could be great mentors for these guys. What Chase has, I think, is very different than what some of these young guys have. Chase seems like he really has this competitive juice in him, this competitive fire in him, and he really wants to compete and he wants to win. And so I think he's different. Based off of just the eye test, I think he's different than some of the young guys that are currently in the bullpen. I think he's somebody that you give him an opportunity, he's going to go out there and he's going to crush it.
Are we disappointed with the fact that this guy was a starter, projected to be a starter? Kind of the same thing with Sam Bachman, right? Where you draft these guys with the intention to start them, and now they're going to be middle to late relief in the bullpen. I understand not everybody who starts is going to be a starter in the major leagues. How do you feel about, is there an element of disappointment there for you in terms of Chase Silseth and maybe even Sam Bachman?
I'm not disappointed, and here's why. Because Sam Aldegary's there, George Clausen's there, TGA's there, the guys they drafted this year are there. I think that the crop of pitchers that they have coming are better than the crop that they've drafted. And so let's use these guys to their greatest ability. And right now what they've shown us is they can go an inning, and they can crush it in an inning. And truthfully, if you want to be a competitive team, you need a bullpen that's going to stretch you out, especially if you're going to have Ray Montgomery managing your team analytically, right? You're going to pull a guy after 4 innings. You're going to pull a guy before he goes 3rd time through the order. You're going to need a bit more to rely on your bullpen. You're going to need them to be a bit more strong. You're going to need them to lengthen the game for you. And so that's where I think their starter mentality will be beneficial for them in the bullpen. Sam Bachman, Chase Silseth, and others. I think that it doesn't make me disappointed because I see who is coming and filling their spots. And I would rather have Caden Dana than Chase Silseth. I would rather have Sam Aldegaray than Sam Bachman. I'd rather have George Clausen, right, than some of the guys that they have right now that could potentially be a starter.
Yeah, they're certainly in a different place than they were after that first draft that got Silseth and Bachman. They have a lot more arms to go to where you don't have to rely on guys like Silseth and Bachman to be who you thought they were going to be and find a better role that best suits them. And at the end of the day, put everybody in a position to succeed. And that's what it sounds like they're doing with Chase Silseth.
Hey, today's show is brought to you by OpenPhone. They're the #1 business phone system, and they're going to help you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or on your computer. If you're juggling 2 phones, maybe one's your personal phone and you got a business phone, OpenPhone takes care of all of that. In fact, your whole team can share one number and respond to customers in a shared inbox, all on the app. No more questions on who's handling this, who's taking care of this, did this get followed up on. OpenPhone has got you covered. And they got an AI agent that handles after-hours calls. So when you're sleeping, resting, vacationing with the family, the AI agent's going to answer common questions, capture leads, so you're never going to miss a customer again. All with OpenPhone. And our friends at OpenPhone are offering our everydayers at Locked On Angels 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. Again, openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have an existing phone number with another service, OpenPhone's going to port that over. No extra charge because they're that good. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Mike, Ray Montgomery thinks that Bryce Teodosio is made for center field. He believes having Bryce in center makes this team overall defensively better. And currently, there's not a lot of stats out there to measure how he's playing center field so far. It's, obviously a small sample size, but Ray Montgomery has said that Bryce has already shown the range and made some great plays. We've seen that with the diving catches he's made. We saw him get some great jumps in the outfield last night. And here's what Teodosio had to say. He said that he works on his outfield defense during his team's batting practice. So the best way you can get a better at the outfield is just by going all out in batting practice, trying to see what balls you can get to and what balls you can't. Now, recently, we've seen him bump into Joe Adell and Taylor Ward. Both times he was calling for the ball, and so was Ward and Adell. In the case of Ward, he collided with him. It could have been either guy's ball. But in the case of Adell, it was very much Joe Adell's ball in right field. Either way, the play was made, injury was avoided. So those are some concerns you might have. But putting Teodosio in the outfield and prioritizing defense over offense, despite Teodosio having, a good little at bat every now and then. Obviously, he got the bunt down. He also hit that RBI double. And so it's not as if his bat is useless out there. But should the Angels continue to make these kinds of defensive-minded decisions in order to improve overall as a team, and one area my mind goes to as we talk about Teodosio in the outfield is Oswald Peraza playing at third base for the next couple of years, what that's going to look like. And does that set them up for better success if the defense improves? Let me hear your thoughts on that.
I just don't want it to be a hole in the lineup. That's I think that's the biggest concern I would have. Now, Teodosio has shown that he's not a hole in the lineup. He hasn't been fantastic, but he's also made contact when it matters. You mentioned the RBI double. He had the bunt last night on a pitch that was like at his eyeballs.
And if he hits a squibber, he can beat it out because he's not fast.
He's quick. And
he's taken first to third and things like that.
He's reading the play well. And so if it's not a hole in the lineup, then I would be more comfortable with that. However, this lineup can be a deep lineup if everybody's hitting and if everybody's approach is a solid approach. I think Christian Moore obviously is going to improve. And I think that we're going to see his improvement really impact the effectiveness of this lineup and make it a really difficult lineup 1 through 7, potentially 1 through 9. But Teodosio is somebody that I've really appreciated. And here's why. Last night, there was a play where the Dodgers runner, the ghost runner, was at second base and the fly ball was hit to center field. And that was in the gap, John. And when the camera got on Teodosio, he was waiting for the ball. And Wayne Randazzo said he got a great jump.
It looked easier than I realized it was because he was already there, Mike.
And that's what I love about Teodosio. And that's why I think if they were thoughtful and strategic, and I know talking about being thoughtful and strategic and the Angels usually don't go in the same sentence.
We didn't think that far ahead.
But if they are thoughtful and strategic, which sounds like they're trying to be with Teodosio, I think it could actually benefit this team in a major way, because when you have solid defense and then you have an offense that can kind of cover up the weak link in the lineup, even though they might come through for you, I think that it benefits you. And last night was an example of that. When you can make a catch, be in a spot, have a good jump, throw the ball, know where you need to throw the ball, hit the cutoff man, all of those little things, they matter. You and I have said often on this show, the Angels need to play boring, fundamental baseball. Bryce Teodosio plays boring, fundamental baseball.
I know that we've had a small sample size from Teodosio so far, but here's how things would look if we were to extrapolate what he's done in his 13 games. This is before last night's game, of course. Bryce, Baseball Reference is a little bit behind. If we were to extrapolate what he's done over a 162 game average, he'd be a 242 hitter, 265 on base, 303 slugging, 568 OPS. Again, that's going to be, due to the way he played in those first 5 games. But if you got yourself maybe a 242 hitter out of your center fielder, and he does the things that he's doing on the bases and in the outfield and putting down bunts, I think that you could have a nice little guy there, especially because most center fielders, unless you're, Aaron Judge in center field, which again, he doesn't always do, and not with Trent Grisham out there. And right now he's DHing, but a 242 hitter, Mike, out of your center fielder, but also adds to your defense and also adds to the fact that he's taking those extra bases. I think he's doing a lot for this team that they've been missing so far this season. I think a lot of it has to do with his speed. We mentioned when Gustavo Campero came up the first time this year, he was getting stuff started on the base paths. He was, stealing bags and trying to go first to third. Now he's got that unfortunate injury, and also he's not somebody that gets you super excited when he's playing, but at the same time, he was trying to be a fire starter, and then he went away, and then there wasn't really a fire starter on the base paths. And I think that Teodosio has added something in terms of defense, in terms of a spark. I think that he's really added to this team. And then, in regard to Oswald Peraza, Mike, I have a notion that I just wonder if the Yankees didn't have enough time to care about Peraza and his bat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They've got all these stars. They're always focused
Got to move quickly.
You got to move quickly. You got to get to the playoffs. Now, he's certainly been a huge part of their lineup. And at one point, he was a great hitter. And then he just fell off year over year. And I think if the Angels can spend a little bit of time with him, maybe there's some improvement to be had with his bat. So again, I am actually glad to see the defense more secure, especially in the outfield. As much as I love Joe Adell, I know he's a better right fielder than center fielder. And look, his center field defense wasn't that bad in the weeks leading up to Teodosio being here. But all that to say, I think it's great that there's a guy who adds a spark, adds some defense, can get the bunt down, and also maybe have a chance of beating out that bunt and getting on first base, because he's just so freaking fast. And I think that that's something that's been missing from this team for a long time.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Angels on YouTube so you don't miss all this great Halo content, including the best postcast in the biz with Gavin Carlson. He's live after every game right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, find today's show on YouTube. Get in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. Mike, what do we have on deck for Thursday's show?
Well, you did a solo show about a week and a half ago of an update of Baseball America's top prospects for the Halos. Well, MLB Pipeline released their top 10 prospects for the Halos. We're going to talk about who's new and who's remaining and where they landed. And we're also going to talk about who's in the top 100 of baseball overall. All that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
I have a wrestling notion. That's what it reminded me of when you said notion.
You got a wrestling tip from me?